Hey guys, John here. Welcome back to John's RC. And today
Doesn't matter how it's connected.
with the 5-inch stretched X race arms. Don't worry, I'll be doing a separate video on that. So I'm just going to take my razor blades. All that will leave is V-back. That's our nice little clean installation. Let's go ahead and beta flight and test it out.
Kind of want to avoid having to resolder these. Hey! Works. I'm really surprised this thing didn't short.
It's the best fried chicken. You'd be ashamed.
Oh my god.
You already got the fried chicken? Happy birthday, dear Jadarius. Happy birthday to you. I appreciate, DA, his family for,
We came in and we cut up all her herbs, her stuff.
If I can describe the smell in this room, heaven.
No, she's gonna act up like this.
Yeah, she brought it all. But that's what she does.
Jamaican cuisine is the best. We look forward for this chicken of him. I'm happy that he's here. I know he's gonna do well.
You can't get that. No way.
The food was fantastic.
Here it is, your new iPhone 17 Pro, designed to be the most pro iPhone yet.
Wow, Boost Mobile delivered and set up my phone while...
Hello everybody, and thanks for coming back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at wiring these 4-in-1 ESCs up. This is a question that comes up often, especially in the build videos of the Swirly, which I can barely get under here because of the zoomed in camera. And the Swirly, they both have 4-in-1 ESCs in the build, and that has not been very clear to many of you. So I'm going to spend this video just talking about our options. So I've gone ahead and taken the liberties of making these numbers that are printed right next to the ESCs a little bit larger. And you can't really read them very well on this blue labeled Cicada 10 amp. But I brought these both out because I wanted to show you that they're labeled the same. Now I'm not going to say they're always going to be the same. You never know what manufacturers are going to do. But this is how the labels are. So we've got motor 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then we've got the signal wires. We've got our negative. And then they go 4 down to 1 for the signal wires. And again, it's the same over here. Negative on this end, positive on this end, and then 4 through 1. But of course, our motors aren't laid out like this. Our motors are laid out like this. I'm going to use this one because it's a little bit easier to see the numbers on it. Traditionally, we use this bottom pad. You can even flip this upside down if you want to be able to get to these easier. So if you're mounting it, it really doesn't matter either way. I like to have mine mounted flat like this. I usually tear the labels off, but you can take motor 1 and run it across and put it on the ESC 1. And that will line your wire up, so where a wire that's labeled number 1 will go to your flight controller, right where you have the signal wire for 1. And they wired the Chaser 88 that way. They just took the wires and they took them all the way across wherever they needed to be, and then they wired them up. So hopefully that's one option, and that's pretty clear. I've removed these just because they get in the way, and I tried to, in one of my build videos, show you the color coordination, but I don't think that quite did the job I thought it did. So the other way you can wire this up is to just wire it up to the nearest pad, which is my preferred method. And that, I think, is what has caused some confusion. So when I'm building these, I'll just wire this motor to these 3 pads, this motor to these 3, and so on and so forth. But that means that motor 1 is actually on ESC4. So ESC4, I have to use the signal wire 4 to wire that to the signal wire for motor 1. Hopefully that's clear. So even though this is labeled 4, I'm using it like ESC1. So in order to make that one function in the form of the flight controller, I have to take signal wire 4 and wire it back to my flight controller for signal 1. And you do the same thing for each. So this, even though it says 3, that tells us which wire it is, but we're using this as motor 2. So motor 2 goes up here, so I would take the signal wire from wire 3 and bring it up to motor 2 signal position. And we do the same for the others. These ESCs also come with this short little lead, and if you're fortunate enough to have a board that will just accept this, then you pretty much have to wire motor 1 to ESC1 in order to get these to line up correctly. So take that in consideration in your builds, that if you're wanting to use this one like they did in the Chaser.
Okay, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4. That's currently 3. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Did you make it? Mm-hmm. Enjoy your flight. Huh? What's wrong with this? Who? Mm-mm. So why didn't you tell your sister? To surprise her. Mm-mm. No. Why do I miss my best friend? All I'm gonna be thinking about is $2,500. Do you not have to pay interest on that? What do you mean no? I do. That's how cards work. Yes. Are you okay? No, ma'am. Nonsense. This looks like this is why I'm single. I don't. It does. I don't. Mm-mm-mm. Goodness me. Goodness me. I'm good. I'm not looking. I don't need it. That's good for you. Go find it somewhere else. Okay. Can't help you. Can't help you. Okay. Oh. Mm, what got delivered? Something got delivered. Is that what just got delivered? Mm-mm. Talking to my sister. That wasn't yours. Well, I guess that's better. Like, I don't know. Don't get super hot. Better than that one. Hmm? Must be. It's in the mailbox or? sit at home. It's party. With what money? Who's paying? Who's paying? Yeah, can you bring me food? Huh? Bring me food, please. Except I have to pay. Oh. Can you watch my live stream? I have no viewers. Huh? Can you watch my live stream? I have no viewers. Can you watch my live stream? I have no viewers.
Maybe because you ain't shooting nothing. Put me on there and it'll blow up.
Yeah, I beg you to go.
Is anyone in there?
Nope. 0. 7 views.
What's this for?
What?
What's
The
this?
drone.
Huh?
The drone.
You're using a drone?
Mm.
Oh, you're so handy, boy.
That's cool.
Engineering boy.
Picono. They go.
You're destined for engineering.
Destined.
Or somebody wanted to go and fly some planes and carry on.
Still want to.
We should have any melatonin while they sleep. Oh, this actually goes.
Car right there. Go to the store.
Maybe so I can drive my car, but I'm scared.
Better not crash it.
It's right backwards.
Okay.
I'm not a bad driver. I just
Seriousness.
it's because I was driving my friend that day. We almost died in there. We almost died. I just got scared to break. Where's this light? We need food in here. We need to go to the African store and get some shake.
Are you paying?
No.
Okay.
I'm actually like $12,000 in debt
Okay.
of credit cards.
This is bad.
Because I borrowed this lady. If you borrow her money, just forget about it. And
She'll
now
pay me
she'll
back.
never pay me. She doesn't.
She will pay me back. So broke. I don't get it. Why is she so broke? I don't get it.
I got this for Lagos. I got stuff I haven't brought. Junks that I'll leave here. I feel like they are changing off here. I need a nail tech. He asked his friends when they get their nails done in Dallas.
What friends? I'm in Arlington.
of setup is this? Which one? Where is this line?
OMG. We're friends.
The supermodel.
I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that.
Friends that is from the naked area. What you doing here?
Should be.
How many is in my dress? And this may not be on the stream. I wonder what mommy's light bill is here with all this nonsense. What's it my budget? Don't buckle. Did you buckle?
Fit.
This is.
It's all the way up. Oh. Bro.
Get the vaccine. No. Now someone's coughing up a storm in it.
What's up? What's up, Arena 200? ¿Qué pasó? Good, how are you? Just chilling. A little sick, but I'll be alright. Oh. How are you? I'm starving, Udo. Udo Shugu. Udo Shuku. I don't really have a tip though. That's the thing. All my tips are worn out. much worn out. So I'm kind of cooked here. Oh. Appreciate the follow. I can't even see my chat. Hold on. I can see it in OBS, but my solder tips are kind of worn out because they're cheap. So I'm kind of thinking if I should keep going or just not. Need to buy new tips. I don't know. Do I keep going or not? I won't be able to get a good joint. This tip is, it's done. It's over. Look at it. I need a new soldering iron tip. I'm not even running it that hot. It's only 300 degrees. Yeah. I might just have to see if I can keep going. I'm getting a messed up joint. Here we go. Alright, I'll put some water on these. Coming out. Okay. Hey, it's a lot of oxidation, bro. See what we can get out of it. If we go fast enough, the iron might make it the whole day. Yes, rough. All right. Solder. Okay. Tend the tip a little. No, can you let them in? Can you let them in? Can you let them in? Door in my bathroom. Yeah, and for my bathroom too.
Oh, the bathroom. That's the one. Yeah. Okay.
This one here. Mine. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I need new iron. I'm done. Just gonna end up messing it up. Yeah, it won't even go on. This tip is messed up. Whatever. We're done. You're done for now. I need to buy new tips. I'll wait for my tips to come back. I need new tips. New solder tips. Your tips aren't hot enough. It's at freaking 480 degrees. There's not really anything I can do for now because I don't have a solder tip. But pretty much we're done. You're gonna let me tin it? Let's see. Will it pretend? Nope. I mean, kinda. Kinda. Maybe there's hope. Kinda. It's not getting hot enough. It's just not. There we go. It's a little better. Ooh. Um. Uh. Oh. All right, let's see if this works. If we didn't mess anything up. Oh, those two are good. That one's good. And that one's good. All right, we're good. Bueno, bueno, bueno. No, that's done. That might be it for soldering, actually. So I could fit it back on this drone. This is motor 1. I know it goes 1. I don't know.
Three. So take that.
So it's 1, 2, 1, 2. Three, 4. What does it matter? I think I was going to test it without even melting it first. Car. Car. There's a car right there, right?
You don't have a job. You don't have nothing. Bumming at home. Building random stuff no one asks for. But you get some work done. What suitcase are you putting your stuff in? Yikes. Better order. That nonsense. The better give my money was how much? 100 and something.
A suitcase in my closet.
Should make a TikTok about it.
Speak on it.
Your brother just builds, wakes up and decides to build random things. You have clothes. You wear Gucci there. In the winter, I'm not going anywhere. Once I ran when did I fly back here? The first, for like 29 or something. 29? I'm landing here the first. Wait, what is the actual answer? Which one? Where is the flight? Because any boat that I've seen for coming back from there. Mine is on first. I don't think yours is on first, but I remember then it was yelling. They were really fast. 30. bag. Don't stand. Don't touch it. You don't bring the money. You're richer.
I'm richer.
I have nothing. I'm actually in debt.
I'm in debt too.
You're doing $12,000 debt.
Got me in 3,800 plus. How much? Just pay.
You have an income to live for. You know? Huh? Not the same.
You do work in the wage?
Huh? I did. Only weekend. And then I quit when I was good. Every day.
Open Tinder.
What sucks? Look me at mother.
See if we did this right. Oh, I don't even have a receiver. I never connected the receiver. All right.
I'm Adam Perlman, CEO and co-owner of Southeast Concrete System. Managing cash flow here can...
Welcome to the Drone Camps channel. We do listen, that is a lot of people's problem. Already have your receiver bound to your radio, and you should have a green light on Free Sky radio receivers, as well as a blue light on ELRS and a green light on Crossfire receivers. Those are the most three popular receivers in the FPV community. So once you have it bound up to your radio and you're seeing those lights on your receiver, it should be a solid light, not a blinking light. you should be good to go. So now that you've bound up your radio to your quad, let's go ahead and plug in the USB-C or Android style cable to your flight controller. And this is a data cable, remember? So we're gonna open up Betaflight, and sometimes you can do automatically connect and it will open up to this first setup page right here. If you see calibrate accelerometer grayed out right here, it means that the accelerometer is not checked on inside the configuration tab. And we're just going to go ahead and enable the accelerometer, go to the configuration tab, 2 tabs down, and look for system configuration. Turn on the accelerometer. You don't need to turn on barometer or magnometer. Go ahead and save and reboot. And right now we're working on this quad without having a battery plugged in. So at this point you don't need to plug in your battery. We'll get to that a little bit later. So make sure that your quad is on a stable and level surface. If it looks like it's a little bit off on this screen, in the setup screen, that means you need to calibrate your accelerometer. So we're going to go ahead, click calibrate accelerometer. I'm not going to move the quad. Now that's nice and level. And what I want you to do now is take your quad, turn it towards you with the back facing you, and you're going to click reset Z axis. Once you do that, it will bring the quad rear facing you. So you're going to tilt it backwards first, tilt it forward, left, and right. So we're going to do this with every single quad you do setup for, and that will be one of the first things you do. So that all looks good. Every single axis is turning the right way. If it turns the wrong way when you test this on the screen, that means that your flight controller is likely turned to 90 degrees or 180 degrees, and you can reconfigure that in the configurator, but we'll go down that road a little bit later. So the next thing we need to do is go to ports. We need to see which port your receiver is wired up to. Now this can be the part of this tutorial that's really confusing for some people, so I'm going to try to simplify this as best I can. Depending on what type of receiver you have too, if it's a serial style receiver, you're going to have to turn on the serial RX, whichever UART it's on right here inside Betaflight. So I know that my receiver is wired up to UART 2. So I'm going to come over here, serial RX, I'm going to turn that on, go ahead and save and reboot. And since I've already bound up my receiver to my radio, now we can check that. And depending on the type of quad you have, let's go ahead and turn on the radio.
Welcome to HTX.
Depending on what type of quad you have, sometimes the receiver will not show up in the channel maps moving until you plug in a battery. And so if you don't see them moving at first, the first thing I do is I usually just plug in a battery, then I plug in the USB cable, and then I go to the radio tab here, down receiver tab, and see if anything's moving. Now right now, you see on the screen right here, I don't have anything set up, and I'm doing this from bare bones minimum right here. We know it is a serial style receiver. There are several other receiver types here, and if you have a built-in receiver, something that's built into the flight controller, it's called an SPI RX. So you want to select SPI RX for that, and then do the drop-down menu to whichever type of receiver you have built in. Sometimes there are ELRS ones as well. You can select Express LRS for that if you are using a built-in Express ELRS receiver on your flight controller. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get out of SPI RX because most people are using serial UART style receivers, and right now I have TBS Crossfire on there, so I'm going to select CRSF in this next tab here, serial receiver provider, and the same thing for ELRS. If you're using ELRS, you're going to select CRSF. It's the same. So now we can restart, but before we do that, if you're using something like a FreeSky, say an S-Bus style receiver, you want to select S-Bus down here for the FreeSky type of folks. So we're going to go ahead and select CRSF next, again because we have TBS Crossfire, and we're going to go ahead and save and reboot. And now we're going to go to the ports. We're going to double check that UART2 is on. So if at this point you go down to the receiver and something's not moving, or it looks like this on the screen, what I want you to do is go ahead and scroll down to where it says channel map. Select this and go down and just try a few of these here. We're going to select AETR. You can see that the default was not matching up, so we're going to save right there, and you see the quad automatically stopped flipping around. And now it seems to be right. We can check our sticks by grabbing the radio. If we move the roll stick to the right, you should see that roll on the top bar go all the way to the right and go left, just like that, okay? Now we're gonna do pitch, should go up and down just like that. And then for yaw, left and right should look like that, and throttle should be just like that. So A-E-T, A-E-R-T, right there from the top to the bottom there, and our channel map is set to A-E-T-R. Now, I have done this manually inside the radio, and you don't need to do that now with Betaflight because you can just change it right here in the motor. So the way we do that is we go down to check I understand the risk. We're going to arm these motors now, and in this menu right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, this first motor will be motor number 1. You can see this up here. There's a 1000 here. And if I just slightly bring this up, you should see that motor spin up, and your little tape flag is going to move around, hopefully to the left. If that is wrong, we will need to switch that motor direction, okay? And we can do that inside the BL Heli configurator, BL Heli 32 configurator, most likely for you. And that looks like it's rotating in the right direction. You're going to do that for each motor. You're going to put a piece of tape on there. I have also used like a little tiny 3-inch prop on a 5-inch quad like this. I'll take this off and just barely lightly put it on there. And I've also done this method as well outside.
So basically, I need to connect my receiver first before I even do any of this. That's getting hot. All right. So I'm guessing I solder these on here. TXRX, and then those go on my flight controller. TXRX. I don't like that. I wish it came with just a connector, so I don't have to worry about soldering it on there.
How to install the EOS receiver to your flight controller. Basically, there are 4 paths you're going to solder on, which the first one is going to be ground, second one is your 5 volts or 4.5 volts, either way. So this is going to be your TX. And TX on the flight controller has to be reversed, so TX has to go to RX. This is your RX on your receiver, and this on the flight controller will have to go to the TX. This particular JHE NCU F722 board, this is going to be your ground, 4.5 volts. This is going to be RX and TX. You're going to pre-tin the solder pads, connect the wires, so ground, 4.5 volts, or 5 volts, your TX to RX, and your RX to TX. We're going to test it out with the short saver. Okay, and your ELRS receiver has been installed. How to install the ELRS receiver to...
Okay, that's not bad. So basically I just need to solder again. Yeah. So I'm gonna put this back real quick. Where's my radio link diagram? See where TX is. Well, it's not gonna work though, because I have... Okay, I see. So basically I need to solder that to that directly, and I don't even need these other cables, the one that came with it. So I just need to solder this to the receiver and then plug this in to the ELRS port, which is I can solder it directly, but why would I can plug it into the ELRS port, which is to the right of the ESC. So that'd be this guy. No, that's GPS. Directly opposite the solar. So that guy. Yeah. So it goes in here. And then we solder this other part to the, yep. Ground is your black. 5 volts is red. TX is white. RX is yellow. To the receiver, that is. Alright, it's not bad. But my soldering iron is doo-doo, so I can't really do it. Ground, 5 volts. TX, RX. Yeah. Ground. 5 volts. TX is the white. RX is yellow. Cool. Shooks.
Your flight controller. Basically, there are 4 paths you're going to solder on, which the first one is going to be ground, second one is your 5 volts or 4.5 volts, either way. So this is going to be your TX. And TX on the flight controller has to be reversed, so TX has to go to RX. This is your RX on your receiver, and this
Alright. Yeah, so just solder. Or will my soldering iron work? That's the real question. Now, how does it pair with the receiver? I don't even. Figure it out. Oh. Dutch cooker.
But it feels like work outfit. Yeah. It feels like work outfit. It's like pretty close to. It's only like $7 each. You can buy like several. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Which I think you did. Gym wear. I think even though I think you need to go. Leave it on black. Videos. Upstairs to go on building machines of machines of. Sweet. Lost 20 pounds. Want to lose weight? Head to med school. Who's talking? Pushing 200 maximum.
Big back. Big back, big back. Oh. Okay, solder this real quick. Hia ho. Old MacDonald had a farm. Hia ho. And a quack quack here and a quack. Okay, let's solder this on really quickly. See if we can get it to work. And all his farmers had a crop. Year ho. And a quack quack there and a quack quack here. Alright. Black is ground, red is 5 volts. So ground. Yeah. At least they pre-tin this. They didn't pre-tin those, which is crazy. I really don't need flux for a joint this small, but What's white? Is your TX. Yep. Looks good to me. All right. So, see if it works. That goes in right here. Please work. Please work. Hey, the light is on. That's a good sign. All right. I guess I should mount it on there then. Let's see. Yeah. Ports configuration. Let's mount it on the drone. Let's see what it feels like or looks like. Might be. Make some Indomie and egg. Maybe. Maybe.
Since November, because the thing was white inside. You guys, you had white things.
What's up, Evie Thomas? I don't even know how to bind this to the ELRS.
At Foot Locker,
I'm good, how are you?
celebrating the season. Foot Locker, we got you.
Stuff like that. Nice in there. And the sides. Yeah, they flash is for quite have, and you can see them here quite nice. I thought this was quite a nice little thing actually, because before to try and actually update the Light Radio 2 was an absolute nightmare.
This video is for anybody who owns the Beta FPV Light Radio 3 with Express LRS built in and is trying to get it to bind to their Express LRS receiver. The specific receiver we're going to be working with in this video is this Beta FPV Meteor 65. And the reason we're working with this hardware is, well, it's a fairly popular combination, but why don't I just refer you to one of the Express LRS tutorials that I've already got? And the answer is that the way that Beta FPV manages their hardware is a little bit different. You don't use Express LRS configurator to flash this radio or to configure it. You use Beta FPV configurator, and I've never messed with that before, so let's do this together.
It's going good. Just soldering and getting this together. Almost there. Got my motor soldered, got my receiver soldered, capacitor, battery leads. I'm just waiting on my propellers, and then yeah, it should be good. Get the test fly or something. Hopefully not crash.
The ways in which brush, the Cetus FPV, the Cetus Pro, but not all of them. And this is part of what's confusing about Beta FPV hardware. Some Beta FPV quadcopters, you simply use Beta Flight Configurator just like any other flight controller. Some of them you have to use Beta FPV configurator. Fine. The same is true for their controllers. So this Beta FPV configurator is for the Light Radio 3 and the Light Radio 2 SE, but not for the Light Radio 2 SE FreeSky version or the Bayang version or the Pro version. So the first thing you got to do if you're in this situation is figure out what program you need to be using in order to manage it. In this case, this is the program we're going to use. Now, normally in an ExpressLRS tutorial, I would tell you to use the screen on the radio, run the ExpressLRS script, and put the radio into binding mode and do whatever else you need to do. But you can see that this radio doesn't have a screen, and so how are we going to get it into binding mode, and how are we going to flash and configure it? That's what we're going to be digging into deeper in this video. So just for fun, let's plug in USB, and we have a pulsing or breathing is the word they use, green light here, which means it's connected. We need to click here on this button to go to the radio transmitter configurator. There's one for the flight controllers and one for their radio transmitters, and then we would just hit Connect RC, and sure enough, here we are. We can configure the basic settings on the radio. And what I'm most concerned with is the ExpressLRS settings. Well, I can't turn the power up. That's a shame. I can change the packet rate. If you're new to ExpressLRS, lower packet rates give you longer range with more latency. Higher packet rates give you shorter range with less latency. And it's just a trade-off of how much range you're okay with. And if we want to, we could enable the bind phrase. So in ExpressLRS, one of the ways to handle binding is by putting a bind phrase on all of the devices. It's sort of like a Wi-Fi password, but it's not really a password per se. But basically, all the ExpressLRS devices that have the matching bind phrase will be bound together. You can actually have multiple radios with the same bind phrase, and whichever one you decide you want to use that day, you just grab it and use it, and all your quadcopters are bound to it. Now, you can bind ExpressLRS using the traditional way of just binding it without a bind phrase, and some people do that, especially beginners, but most people who really get into ExpressLRS would want to use a bind phrase.
Texans get up high quality and down low prices. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
You know what? Let's go through with the binding phrase method, and then I'll show you the simpler method that doesn't use a binding phrase later in the video. All right, so I'll make up a binding phrase. Beta FPV is my binding phrase. Don't use a commonly guessable phrase. That's a bad idea. I'm going to hit save and reboot. The next thing I need to do is get that bind phrase onto the receiver on this quadcopter. And normally the way that you do that is you compile and flash firmware to the ExpressLRS receiver that contains your bind phrase. Or there's a way that you can actually connect to the receiver with a web browser over Wi-Fi and put your bind phrase in. But we're not going to do either of those things with this receiver because this receiver is an SPI-based receiver. And what that means is that the receiver programming code is built into Betaflight, and what that means is that you don't flash and manage
Ugh. Alright, so let me mount this. The 3. So from the front of the drone, which we can call the front, I need one to be over here. So why did they inverse it? That is so interesting. Why don't they just make it to where it makes sense and it's lined up? Or can I just switch it in the... Yeah. Just reorder it myself. Alright. Gee. Hey. Alright, so that's one. I need 4 over here. That gives us 3 over here. Three. That gives us 3. Across from 2. Which that is 2. Ow. I should have printed a cover for my ESC. 3D printed a cover that can go above these right here. And just kind of cover the whole thing with the exception of the wires. Just in case of a crash. Because that is the highest point on the whole drone. So if I do crash, that's the point that's going to hit the ground for sure. I can design one later. It's going to be hell trying to take this screw out though. Because it's an interference fit. It's basically creating a thread in the 3D print on the PLA. It's not threaded in there by any means. Kind of just making it fit. Oh shit. Almost just broke my thing. I mean, I want to see at least a little bit on the other side before I say, okay, it's all the way through, we're good. But nothing has come out. Looks like we might have to go all the way down. Oh, this is gonna be rough. I don't even think the holes are lined up properly. Oof. Yeah, they're not, because it's literally picking it up. Shit. No, it's fine. We just won't go all the way through then. And I'm threading the screw. Well, it looks stable enough. If the ESC comes loose mid-flight, it's game over. I think we'll be fine. So basically, I want to go this low. Yeah, the holes aren't lined up. That's the problem. Maybe that's how I could take the bottom out, but I can't. To look at it. I could have sworn those holes they lined up earlier. No, they don't apparently line up. So I don't know. Could have sworn they lined up though. Oh well. Yeah. Oh well. Very well.
This express alerts receiver like you do most others. And most moving away from SPI-based receivers for this reason, but some still have SPI receivers, and that's one of the things that makes binding this a little more complicated. So the way to put your bind phrase into an SPI-based receiver is to go into the Betaflight command line and plug in the basic setting, or breathing is the word they use, green light here, which means it's connected. We need to click here on this button to go to the radio transmitter configurator. There's one for the flight controllers and one for their radio transmitters, and then we will just hit Connect RC, and sure enough, here we are. Which means it's connected. We need to click here on this button to go to the radio transmitter configurator. There's one for the flight controllers and one for their radio transmitters, and then we will just hit Connect RC, and sure enough, here we are. We can configure the basic settings on the radio. And what I'm most concerned with is the Express LRS settings. Oh, well, I can't turn the power up. That's a shame. I can change the packet rate. If you're new to Express LRS, lower packet rates give you longer range with more latency. Higher packet rates give you shorter range with less latency. And it's just a trade-off of how much range you're okay with. And if we want to, we could enable the bind phrase. So in Express LRS, one of the ways to handle binding is by putting a bind phrase on all of the devices. It's sort of like a Wi-Fi password, but it's not really a password per se. But basically, all the Express LRS devices that have the matching bind phrase will be bound together. You can actually have multiple radios with the same bind phrase, and whichever one you decide you want to use that day, you just grab it and use it, and all your quadcopters are bound to it. Now, you can bind Express LRS using the traditional way of just binding it without a bind phrase, and some people do that, especially beginners, but most people who really get into Express LRS would want to use a bind phrase. You know what? Let's go through with the binding phrase method, and then I'll show you the simpler method that doesn't use a binding phrase later in the video. All right, so I'll make up a binding phrase. Beta FPV is my binding phrase. Don't use a commonly guessable phrase. That's a bad idea. I'm going to hit save and reboot. The next thing I need to do is get that bind phrase onto the receiver on this quadcopter. And normally the way that you do that is you compile and flash firmware onto the receiver on this quadcopter. And normally the way that you do that is you compile and flash firmware to the Express LRS receiver that contains your bind phrase. Or there is a way that you can actually connect to the receiver with a web browser over Wi-Fi and put your bind phrase in. But we're not going to do either of those things with this receiver because this receiver is an SPI-based receiver. And what that means is that the receiver programming code is built into Betaflight, and what that means is that you don't flash and manage this Express LRS receiver like you do most others. Most manufacturers are moving away from SPI-based receivers for this reason, but some still have SPI receivers, and that's one of the things that makes binding this a little more complicated. So the way to put your bind phrase into an SPI-based receiver is to go into the Betaflight command line and put in this string of text. And I can't right-click copy. Let's try Control-C and see if it works. So I'm going to plug in the quadcopter. I'm going to start Betaflight Configurator. If you're brand new to the hobby and you've never downloaded Betaflight Configurator before, I have a Betaflight playlist. In the very first episode of that playlist teaches you how to download and get set up with Betaflight Configurator and connect it to your quad. I'll put a link to that down in the video description if you need that. So I'll hit connect here, and I will go to the CLI, right to the CLI, and I will right-click, paste, and sure enough, yay, it's there. And then I will type the word save to save that. Down in the video description if you need that. So I'll hit connect here, and I will go to the CLI, right to the CLI, and I will right-click, paste, and sure enough, yay. And I will go to the CLI, right to the CLI. An SPI-based receiver is to go into the Betaflight command line and put in this string of text in list teach right to the CLI, and I will right-click, paste, and sure enough, yay, that they're bound. No, it's going in the configuration.
With connecting again, if this helps you out, hit those links at the bottom. Be the ones dealing with this, and go all the way down. And it doesn't understand. Hopefully, click this for you. It's a cable, hardware and software version, and then you can make all your changes here. I'm not going to go over what changes to make. You can make them yourself. Now, let's say you want to update the firmware on this radio. Make sure your radio is unplugged. Click Firmware Flasher on the left-hand side. Now, if these are not populating up here, at least in my experience, it's because you didn't run as administrator. It needs internet access to be able to find the versions that are out there. So if you're not getting this, run as administrator. It needs all your changes here. I'm not going to go over what changes to make. You can make them yourself. Now, let's say you want to update the firmware on this radio. Make sure your radio is unplugged. Click Firmware Flasher on the left-hand side. Now, if these are not populating up here, at least in my experience, it's because you didn't run as administrator. It needs internet access to be able to find the versions that are out there. So if you're not getting this, run as an administrator. If you're still not getting it, make sure you're hooked up to the internet. So for me, Light Radio 3 SX 1280, because it is the Express LRS. If you have the FR Sky 4, well, the FR Sky version, it's going to be the CC 2500, but we're on the SX 1280. Click version, newest version 2.0.1. Really wish it was newer than that, but that's what we got. All right, here's the next step. Newest version 2.0.1. Really CC 2500, but we're on the SX 1280. Click version, newest version 2.0.1. Really wish it was newer than that, but that's what we got. All right, here's the next step. Really have to pay attention to this. You need to hold, make sure the radio's off. Radio needs to be off. Make sure it's off, like this. Off. You need to make sure the USB cable is not connected to it right now. USB cable needs to be disconnected. Grab yourself a little pokey device. Hold the setup button in and press the power button, like so. Your radio should light up in blue. So just hold the setup button and then just tap the power button. It should light up in blue. If it's beeping at you and flashing red, it's probably you have the USB cable installed. All right. Now that this is solid blue, take your USB cable, plug it right in there. Something you should see if you go into Device Manager, which at least for my Windows folks, if you right-click your Start button, and you can go to Device Manager here, this will pop up. You should see under COM ports something other than COM1. Make sure you don't have a flight controller plugged in or Betaflight running or something like that. Betaflight, Express LRS, any ESC configurator, make sure those are closed. Otherwise, they're going to want to take control of this COM port, and they could be conflicting with you. But if you do not have a COM port right here, or you have something that's like an unknown COM port, you need to figure out the driver issue for your computer. If you do not see the STM32 virtual COM port driver, or you have something that's like an unknown COM port, you need to figure out the driver issue for your computer. If you, or you have something that's like an unknown COM port, you need to figure out the driver issue for your computer. If you do not see the STM32 virtual COM port driver, this is where you need to go. I'll put a link in the video description. You do need to like make an account. They don't charge anything. It's just kind of a pain in the butt. So we'll put our email address, hit download. They're gonna send you a registration thing. It's just what you got to go through to do this. So you get an email and then it'll say download now. Hit that button. And then you can come down here and it'll automatically start downloading. Go ahead and extract that file, and then we're going to install the program. Most likely you're going to want to do this one here that says X64, 64 bits. Run that. I've already got it installed, so I'm just going to do a repair. You get the device installation wizard, just going to click next. It's probably going to give you a warning. All right, here we go. STM32, blah, blah, blah. Done and finish. And you see now that my COM port 11 changed STM Microelectronics Virtual COM port COM 11. It works either way for me. So there we are. We're there. All right. Port COM 11. It works either way for me. So there we are. We're there. All right. So now that we have our COM port, you should be able to also see COM port up here in the corner. If you went through this whole process and changed a bunch of drivers, go ahead and shut everything down, turn it all back on, redo everything up to this point. All right. Our radio is solid blue because we held set up and push power without USB connected. That was blue. We plugged it in. We have our COM port. We're going to do connect, load firmware online, flash firmware. Load firmware online. the program, most likely you're going to want to do this one here that's says echo electronic, everything up to this point. USB connected. That was blue. We plugged it in. We have our COM port. We're going to do connect, load firmware online, flash firmware. You should be able to also see COM port up here in the corner. If you went through this whole process and changed a bunch of drivers, go ahead and shut everything down, turn it all back on, redo everything up to this point. All right. You should be able to also see if you went through this whole process and changed a bunch of drivers, go ahead and shut everything down, turn it all back on, redo everything up to this point. All right. Our radio is solid blue because we held setup and push power without USB connected. That was blue. We plugged it in. We have our COM port. We're going to do connect, load firmware online, flash firmware. Connect. That was blue. We plugged it in. We have our COM port. We're going to do connect,